I wanted to start talking a little bit about karma, because as I mentioned last time, karma is one form of causation that is really important in the sense that karma influences our experience. One of the chief ways that karma ripens is in our feelings, whether we feel pain or pleasure. Okay, so karma, the word itself, actually means action, volitional action. Nowadays, it's thrown around and used in a whole variety of ways that aren't necessarily correct. His Holiness sometimes says we mean it to mean I don't know, like why did this happen? It's your karma. In other words, I don't know. And he laughs about that usage of karma. Sometimes karma's used to refer to the imprint, or the seed. Because when we do an action, the action itself is karma. It leaves something afterwards, because nothing has kind of an absolute ending with nothing coming after it. So it leaves something afterwards that some people say is like a seed on the consciousness. The Prasangikas say it's a having disintegrated. But in any case, it leaves something afterwards. So sometimes people use the word karma to refer to that, which isn't actually what karma is, because karma is the action itself. Sometimes people use the word karma to refer to the result, like, I don't know, well, this thing, if that's your karma, in other words, that's the result that came about. Or who knows what people mean by that phrase. Okay, but speaking of karma as the result, again, isn't the actual meaning of karma, because karma refers basically to the causal action. Okay? So there's various ways of talking about karma and subdividing it. One way is into positive, negative, and neutral. Sometimes I prefer to translate that as constructive, destructive, and neutral. Because positive and negative have kind of a certain ring in Western culture. Yeah? But if you think about it, if you do constructive actions, they bring happy results. Yeah? If we behave in a destructive way, then it brings unhappiness. Okay? Now, the principal way that actions are defined as constructive or destructive is according to the result they bring. Okay? So here is dependence right in our nose. Okay? In other words, there is no action that is inherently good or inherently bad. Okay? Things only become called constructive or destructive depending upon the result that they produce. So if the long-term result is pleasant, then it's called constructive action. If it's long-term result is unpleasant, then it's called destructive action. If the long-term result is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, neither happiness nor suffering, then the action's called a neutral action. Okay? So this, I think, is something that's very important for Westerners to understand, because so often, many of us grew up in a way where this is good and this is bad. Why? Because God said so, or your principal said so, or your parents said so, or somebody else said so. In other words, it was some kind of inherent rule of the universe that somebody made up independent of anything else. Whereas actually here, this whole differentiation we make is dependent completely on the kind of result it brings. Okay? So Buddha did not make up what is constructive and destructive. He only described it, And for that reason, there's no punishment and there's no reward. There's only results. And, you know, I can't emphasize this too much because so often, remember I was talking last week about things in the back of our mind. You know, this is another one that kind of is in the back of the mind of, you know, you're a good girl, you're a good boy, you're a bad girl, you're a bad boy, you know, because of, you know, this, whatever you did that is inherently good or bad, and so therefore you're going to get rewarded and punished. Yeah. And that whole way of looking things is totally absent in Buddhism. Yeah. You don't say somebody is good or bad based on the actions they do. You just use constructive and destructive to describe the actions themselves. Okay? Another way, so one chief factor discerning, you know, whether things are going to bring positive or negative results, happiness or unhappy results, is going to be our intention, our motivation for why we did the action. Yeah. So, you know, if we had a good intention, now by and large, it's going to be a constructive action. If we had a bad intention, it's going to be a destructive action. Yeah. Now, of course, we all like to think we have good intentions, but I don't know about you, but sometimes it's taken me years, sometimes decades, to realize that something I thought I did with a good intention, I did not do with a good intention. Yeah, that there was a lot of motivation for self-gain in there, a lot of, you know, basic self-centeredness, just taking care of myself, looking out for my own happiness, not thinking long-term about the results of actions. And especially, I was thinking, you know, how in our late teens and our 20s, we often make, you know, huge decisions about that are going to affect the rest of our life. Yeah. And looking back on it now, it's like, did I have any kind of wisdom in my late teens, early 20s to make major decisions? My decisions were basically, you know, of course I thought at the time they were based on love, based on compassion. They were basically made on craziness and, you know, kind of just looking for pleasure. Yeah, that was the basic thing, you know, too many hormones bouncing around and the mind craving for pleasure, and that was the basis on which I made so many decisions. And I happened to be lucky in a way that many of those decisions didn't totally ruin the rest of my life. But I look at many people, you know, and wow, they experience so many results the whole life based on decisions and choices made out of this crazy mind and hormonal body, you know. And so it influences not only this life, but, you know, future lives too, you know. So my point here is that we really need to learn how to investigate our motivations and discern what mental factors are alive in our motivations, you know, what our actual intentions really are, what are the states of mind influencing our intentions and motivations. You know? And so often, you know, because we're not used to staying quiet and observing our own mind, then we think we have all sorts of reasons for doing things that are good, and like I said, you only figure it out later, yeah, that your intentions were really not so good. Okay? So, you know, this is really a call for us to be more introspective and have more introspective awareness about the thoughts and emotions and mental states that are fueling our actions. Okay. So just this way of describing breaking karma into constructive, destructive, and neutral is one way. A way that's similar to that, but a little bit different, comes when we talk about the 12 links of dependent origination, how we get born in samsara. And then there, under the second link of formative action, so-called because it's action that forms our future rebirths. There we have it broken down into meritorious and demeritorious karma. Okay? But I think I better hold that for the next BBC and leave you in suspension about what this means. Okay? But, maybe add this onto this whole discussion of causality. Look at how your motivations and intentions influence the things that you do, which influence what you experience, which again influences how you think and what you do. And so here we have the circular effect. Yeah? And then you get much more of a sense of the meaning of a precious human life and how it can be used to stop this cycle.